Well, hello everybody and Merry Christmas, and I'm back for my big Christmas video. This is the video I've been wanting to do for a long time. Finally got my dad. I was upstairs earlier to get you to do this video, and you were snoozing in your chair with your crossword puzzle on your lap. So I waited a few minutes till you woke up. I didn't want to disturb you, but when I heard you rustling around upstairs, I figured I'd go up and get you.
You know me though, I can sleep on a rock if I can't find one.
He falls asleep.
And Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, many people that view my channel, they asked to see you again and to be able to, you know, see how you're doing and everything. And many of them do offer their Christmas greetings to you. They want you to have a merry, happy, healthy Christmas. I thought
they wanted to find out if it was someone that looked familiar that they were looking for, or wanted to turn in to
maybe
local police.
Maybe your picture's in a post office near where they live or something. But especially some people, there's Paul, fit to be tie-dyed. He asks about you a lot. He's out in Vancouver. And Beetle Brad, his name is Brad, but he goes by the handle Beetle Brad. He's down in the Carolinas. Right. He's always asking me how you're doing. He wants, how's your dad doing? How's he feeling?
Did I ever borrow money from you guys?
And the one who really started this idea to do this Christmas video with you was a friend of mine. He's from the United Kingdom. His name is Rossi. And Rossi asked to see you again and said you should do a Christmas message video with your father. I said, gee, that's a good idea. So he's always asking how you're doing. I know you've never met these people.
Well, they must be into music or history, so that shows you they're probably pretty nice. Yeah. They're pretty much quality people, no question.
Oh, they definitely are. They're all good, decent people. They love music, and they know of you because of the videos you did before talking about your history with music, and you know, so they always want to know how you're doing. They really enjoyed those videos with you.
Right.
And so anyway, I thought today we'd talk about some memories of Christmas a little bit. We'd get into some different things. And, you know, whatever you can think of is great. Don't worry if you can't remember something. But I thought before we talk a little bit about Christmas music, that maybe we'd go back and talk about Christmas for you as a young boy. You were born in 1930.
Right.
And you grew up, you know, you're right at the onset of the Great Depression and then into World War II, and when you were in middle school, and then of course World War II was over by the time you graduated high school in 1948.
Right.
But during those formative years, let's start with the 1930s, as a very, very young boy growing up when your dad was still alive. Do you have thoughts of Christmas back then?
Oh yeah, I used to spend a lot of time when I was quite young, say around 34, 35, looking around the house. I lived in Pawtucket then. The family was in Pawtucket. And I spent all my time searching closets and up in the ceiling and down in the cellar, looking for gifts. I wanted to know where anything was that pertained to me. And so I'd know ahead of time what I was going to get, but I didn't have much luck. Once in a while I'd find something, but...
That was a very small house, too.
Yeah, well, it was a cottage, a small cottage.
Did you must have, as a young boy, though, believed in Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah, sure. We faithfully waited every year for Santa to come, and of course in those days, you didn't have the advertising you have now. It was strictly radio. Yeah. Or in those days, a big deal was to go to Providence to the outlet company. It was a large department store, had everything from soup to nuts. And on the top floor, they would bring in wild animals. They were actually wild animals that were kept at Benson's Animal Farm up in New Hampshire. And you can't imagine how thrilled we were. They had lions and tigers and you name it. And they'd have at least one type of animal, a wild animal. They'd have to be caged in most cases, but they were there actually shipped from New Hampshire to Providence and placed on the top floor. I think it was about 4 or 5 stories high. It was considered a very large store at that time as far as department stores go.
And they would decorate on that 3rd floor for Christmas?
Oh yeah, they could. All the stores decorated even when I was much older, in my 40s and 50s, when I worked in Boston, that was a big deal for these department stores to decorate the trees, unbelievable the amount of lights that you would see, various types of Christmas lights.
Did the outlet store in Providence have Santa Claus at
Yeah,
that third
yeah,
level?
that was,
Yeah.
yeah, and he really looked authentic whenever they had one in Providence at the outlet, and we truly believed when I was a young boy, and especially through those early years, 30s into the 40s, I believed that there was a Santa Claus, no question about it.
And I just want to mention about the 1930s. All this is going on despite a Great Depression happening. How did your family cope with getting you presents or feeding you a Christmas dinner, or making it festive with the money being so tight back then?
It was difficult. We didn't get enormous amounts of toys. If you had one or two toys and possibly a pair of pants and a shirt, which I didn't want, the clothing.
Right.
But that's the way it was. And not to be too sad or melancholy, but my dad died when I was about 8. I think I was about to turn 8. And my mother was left with the burden of running the house. And things were really tight. And this was quite a while after the Depression had ended, but the average blue-collar person really had to work the money to make it last, and you were very frugal in how you approached food, clothing, anything you really needed. One thing I can say is I thought we were quite well off financially, because my dad owned a car, a used car. He had 2 or 3 different types, including Chevy and Ford, over a period of time. And he was a crackerjack mechanic. He could fix anything. And we were one of the few families in my neighborhood that had a car. A lot of people relied solely on the trolley cars and buses that were available to city transportations. And
your town, where you live, downtown Pawtucket, Rhode Island, decorated very well too, didn't they?
That was a thriving community at that time. Now it's changed so dramatically. In fact, the outlet company, the store I mentioned in Providence with the Wild Animal Show, they had a store in Pawtucket, and the main street, when you walk down there, even when I was in my early 20s, you'd be practically knocked off the sidewalk. There were so many people, especially from Thursday, Friday, into Saturday. It was unbelievable. And when you see the area today, if you had lived at that time, you would know there's a big change. Big change.
So it's such a different era nowadays, and such a different era back then.
Unfortunately, they just lost the Pawtucket Red Sox to Worcester, and that was something they wanted to put downtown in the old Apex store. That was a department store at that location. They wanted to put it there to keep the city building up, to make it more thriving, and it didn't work out. This politics, whatever else, caused it to be moved, and in 2 more years, I believe they'll be in Worcester.
Yeah. Did you have any memories of after your father died when you were so young, 8 years old? That's late 30s now. Was your mom still able to provide somewhat of a Christmas for you in the ensuing years?
Oh yeah, it was tight. She had to go to work. Prior to that, she was pretty much a homemaker for the 3 kids. I had a sister and a brother, George and Nancy. And my mother got a job. She worked at a factory where they made threads, hundreds of different types of threads for sewing. And she earned a nominal amount of money. The pays in those days weren't that great.
Right.
And where we lived, the bulk of the people were working class. I guess you could call them blue class. They blue collar. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
And they just plugged away. We were all living in the same boat, so to speak.
Did you have any memories of any Christmas music back then? Did you? I know back then there were records, but they were like 78s in the 30s,
Yeah,
right?
in fact, when I was very young and into my teens, we had a Victrola, and you would crank it, and it would play for so many minutes. And there was a very coarse-looking needle to play the records. They were made out of shellac, I believe, in those days.
Yeah.
And you'd have to periodically unscrew the needle and take it out and put a new needle in. And it certainly was different from what you young people have nowadays.
Did they have Christmas music back then?
Oh,
Could you get a
yeah.
Christmas record? Or
Yeah, mostly music you would consider hymn type
Hymnal
music.
type?
Yeah, hymnal, yeah.
Or-
You know, Silent Night, and
right.
that hasn't changed. I went to Mass today. I went to church, and the same songs that they played when I was a baby or a young kid growing up. They're still singing and playing them on the organs today in the churches.
Yeah, and you've certainly been into, as we know from past talking with you, music in general, but I always remember even growing up, and I'm sure maybe even before I was born, you must have always had Christmas music during the holidays, because as a very, very young boy in the early 60s, I remember it being in our house.
Oh,
So
sure.
you and Mom, and even prior to that when you were a young man, must have been into the holiday spirit of the
Right.
music.
I always love music, even to this day. I play more soft jazz now using the television set, but I really enjoy it. Many times I will shut off a station. It may be a movie or a gala show that they're having, and I just sit there and listen to the music, and I enjoy it so much.
Well, I thought what I would do now is maybe we could take a minute, you know, I just wanted to mention one thing, yeah, how we always have the Christmas music on, but whenever I listen to Christmas music, kind of brings me back to a certain time in my life. Just a couple I had here, get your thoughts on them. I have an old one from Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Yeah, he was very popular.
You don't hear of him nowadays, but
Oh, he was very
he was on the old, if you look, he's on the old Capitol label.
right.
The old...
That was a very prominent company. They made millions of dollars at one point with. They had some major artists that really brought in a great amount of money for the company.
This is kind of country, but it's Loretta Lynn's old
Yeah.
Christmas album.
Yeah, she's a country and
She's
western type.
very
Yes.
fine. That's on Decca, the old Decca
Right.
label. I remember Mom having some John Denver and playing this one at
Right.
one point. The old John Denver Rocky Mountain Christmas
Yeah.
album. His album was always very, very popular.
Because those artists that became prominent, that were outstanding and desired when anybody produced at that time when I was very young, it was radio, but they all would make Christmas albums because they knew they would sell. And if you liked a certain type of music, be it country and western or Ray Conniff type symphony, what I would call modern symphony type arrangement, they'd make albums. As long as they sold, they'd be ready to make them.
There's an old, he used to play the Carpenters a lot in
Oh
the
yeah,
house.
they were great. We saw them when I was very young.
Way back, I think.
Yeah,
you did,
yeah.
They made a nice Christmas record. I always loved this. This is one of my favorite Christmas records, Andy Williams.
Oh yeah. I saw
Boy.
Andy Williams at Mohegan Sun. My wife and I went there. We were given a pass to go to one of the concerts. Or we saw several, but we saw Andy. He was terrific. Even though he was, in a sense, over the hill, he still could sing, and he had a great voice.
Yeah, you said the voice was still
Oh,
there.
boy. We saw some great entertainment down there.
This will bring back memories for you. This is Gene Autry's Christmas record.
Yeah, right. And of course, I met him. I think we talked about.
You talked about in the last video.
When I was a kid.
He won an essay contest in school, and he got to go to Providence and meet Gene Autry and have a barbecue. A barbecue.
Yeah, it was a barbecue, Western barbecue, and Gene Autry came around and spoke to all of the kids, and he was exactly like you'd expect him, a cowboy type person.
This was always a favorite too, Nat King Cole.
Oh, I loved him.
Yeah, he's got a great Christmas record.
I never spoke to him, but I saw him one time at a motel in Warwick, Rhode Island, when we were at a wedding dinner. And
he must have been playing a show, huh?
Yeah, he was playing at the Warwick Tent at that time for a week. And this fellow I knew, Bob Armstrong, was getting married, and I worked with him. And my wife and I went, Louise and I went to the wedding dinner. We went to the wedding, of course, and then the dinner. And Nat King Cole was coming in to the motel at the time. He was staying there. And Bob Armstrong runs out and wants Nat King Cole to come in and meet the guest at his wedding and maybe give them a song. But Nat King Cole said, "No way, I'm not going in."
That's funny.
And that's the truth. I would never tell anything that wasn't truthful, and that was a fact. And I saw Nat coming in, and I said, "Oh, maybe he'll come up and see us." No way.
Here's an oldie that I love.
Yeah.
Bing Crosby. It's White Christmas.
He was so popular when he was in his prime.
He would have been around when you were a boy, right?
Yeah.
Like 30s, 40s?
Oh, yeah. I always liked his voice. He had that nice, mellow, smooth approach.
This one I remember as a young boy growing up. You and Mom actually, this may even be your album.
Yeah.
It's Mitch Miller.
He went through a period where he was really, really popular.
Oh, God, look at all the albums
Yeah,
he had.
made some great albums, and he made a lot of money. I guess he was an outstanding arranger and conductor.
But I remember this in the house as a boy.
Yeah, we bought that specifically because it was for Christmas.
Certainly Sinatra. I don't have an album of his, but Sinatra has a great Christmas album.
When I
love his album.
Yeah, when I met my wife in 54, let's see, 54,
yeah.
She had a phonograph in the house connected with the TV. It was a monstrous TV cabinet, and the TV was about this size, but the music was great. The screen was so small, but I gotta say that the music was great. And we bought a couple of
Mitch Miller,
yeah, we bought Sinatra records.
Oh, Sinatra.
There was one when he was, I'm trying to think, Nelson Riddle, when Sinatra had Nelson Riddle as his conductor. He made some great records at that time. Yeah. No kidding.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention these two.
Yeah,
I have one on CD and one on album, but there's the classic Ray Conniff Christmas.
Yeah.
And this is a real favorite in our house growing up, this one.
Yeah, we played
the
same Christmas albums every year.
But these were two big ones you had.
Yeah. And we, to this day, we can go to Attleboro to the bandstand at Capron Park, where they have a nice animal exhibit. It's like a zoo, of course.
Yeah.
And to go to the Ray Conniff bandstand, it was named after him.
Yeah.
And when they had an anniversary, I don't know if it was a couple of 100 years anniversary of the town, Ray Conniff came there and appeared in the local armory, and that was a big deal to come back. He was born there, by the way.
I was just going to mention the reason all this honor for Ray Conniff in the old town of Attleboro, Mass. is because he was born and raised in Attleboro, went to Attleboro High School, before he went out west to California, made it big.
He became a millionaire,
So
sure.
we may not have Elvis or the Beatles from our town, but we have Ray Conniff.
Ray Conniff.
All right, so Ray Conniff came from our old town. And I'd be remiss, Elvis, I got some Elvis back there. He's got a famous Christmas album. He's made some wonderful Christmas albums. But, well, that was pretty much it. I wanted to share some memories of the music that we enjoyed growing up. Christmas music, holiday music. And I know it must have been tough for you as a young boy growing up during that period after your dad died in the 30s and 40s. But it sounds like you still had pretty joyful Christmases and good times.
Oh, yeah, it was exciting. We always enjoyed it, even as I grew older, and I became a man of the world, so to speak. But I wasn't.
You still enjoy it.
I really wasn't, but and we relied so much on the radio when I was young.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there were no CDs or cell phones or electronics, and radio was the king, right? I mean, radio was it.
And I thought I mentioned previously on one of these tapes that I saw television for the first time in 1939 at the New York World's Fair. They had one in 38 and 39. And my brother George and I went. I think it was only about 14. I was maybe I was about 10, 9 or 10. My mother dropped us off. We went to the World's Fair by ourselves. And we saw television there. They transmitted on site. They didn't transmit outside of the area where the fair was being held. But we saw that. I wasn't like overwhelmed by it. I just said, oh, that's really something. And I gave no thought to, oh, someday it's going to be so important to the rest of the world. Yeah. But it happened.
That's amazing. You were probably one of the first people to see one of the first television broadcasts. You know, just
I'm
1939.
I'm proudly repeating. That's where I saw Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy. They were like guest celebrities at the fair, and I got to be quite close to them and observe Edgar Bergen as a ventriloquist. And he's one of the few guys, if not the only one. He always moved his lips, even when he was on radio and then later on television. He moved his lips, but the people loved Charlie McCarthy.
For a child, then, he was like he must have been like a god, right?
Yeah. He had another a doll, Mortimer Snerd, to compliment Charlie McCarthy. That was fascinating. I enjoyed that. And we loved him on radio. We didn't see him. We didn't know if he moved his lips. But it was great, great.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for your Christmas memories. I want to wrap this up so it's not too long for the people watching it. But thanks for your Christmas memories. It's been a great Christmas. We've been together with family and loved ones, and that's what it's all about, as I always say, to be with your family, friends, and have your faith in your life. Those are the three important things.
Yeah, so, my family's so important to me, and my children have been great, especially Dave and his wife Claudette. I can never thank them for all they've done, especially these last few years.
We're happy to do what we can.
And I wish you all a Happy New Year, too. I hope that you get as much out of life and have the memories that I have. I don't think of them half the time because I'm getting senile, but in my old age. But, I think back and things will pop into my mind, and great. And music has been so important. I'll go back up and listen to music now and enjoy it.
He will.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.
Thanks for listening or watching and putting up with an old guy like me, but it's been great.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.